Have you ever found yourself wondering how you could make money on Airbnb without owning any property? Well, in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover for you a strategy that I've been using, our students have been using to great success. And for those of you who stick to the end, we'll give you an access to a special presentation that can show you how to get started fast. Hi, I'm Jay Massey, and welcome to Cashflow Diary. And on this channel, I talk about money, business, and real estate related strategies like how to leverage sites like Airbnb and the sharing economy. So if you're interested in growing your mind as well as your money, please leave us a like and make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you can be the first to know when we produce a new video. Okay. So the question is is it possible for you to be able to run a short-term rental business without actually owning the property? Well, obviously the short answer is yes, and that's why this video is here. But let me tell you a really quick story of how I got involved in short-term rentals to help you understand how I figured it out. So I've had the privilege of teaching thousands upon thousands of investors all across the globe for a number of years. And what happened is that one of those investors came to me one day and said, "Hey, Jay, all of that money that you taught us how to raise, we didn't do with it what you said to do." Now, normally, if I'm being honest, I got a little scared because it's usually at that point that I find out that something bad happened. But in this particular case, the investor had already had massive experience in a very profitable niche of real estate investing known as student housing. So in my mind, I'm like, it couldn't be that bad. So we got together because they had a question. Their question was very simple, and it's something that a lot of business owners struggle with from time to time. And it was simply, where is the highest and best use of our time? So the reason this question came about is because inside their student housing business, they were making significant cash flow. But at the same time, on the side, they had started leveraging other people's capital, using it to go grow a short-term rental business. And it got to the point to where just a few short-term rentals was starting to make just as much, if not more money than this student housing thing. And they wanted to know which one that they should pursue. Now, as normal, as any other investor should, you should be looking at the numbers to make the decision. And really long story short, when I looked at the numbers, I was like, okay, those numbers look pretty good. And you've got to understand one very important thing. Having had the privilege of speaking all across the globe, I get offered all kinds of deals all the time. But this was one of those few times where I absolutely said, not only do you have such a great deal, I'm going to do it too. So when I came back home, I started doing what I normally do. I know how to go out there and creatively acquire real estate using none of our own money or credit or finding good deals, foreclosures, all of that stuff. That's what we had done for decades. It's how we found our commercial buildings, our cell phone towers, our apartment buildings, our single family houses, mortgage notes, you name it. And then I started applying those same techniques. I was thinking, okay, cool, let me go buy a house. Now, in California, the average cost of a house is a little bit different than elsewhere, so bear with me as I give you some of the numbers. What we were looking at when we found a house right down the street from where I live, we were looking at having to put in about $100,000. Now that included taking over the house using a very advanced strategy known as subject to. So we're making up arrears, we're doing some rehab to put the house together, all right? Now that was done, we still would have to furnish the house. And obviously, right after closing, we would have a mortgage payment due. So I started totaling all of that up, and not including the furnishings, like I said, it was going to cost us about $100,000. So I had to ask myself the same question you should ask yourself anytime you're looking to make an investment. Does this make sense, and compared to what? You can never evaluate an investment in a vacuum. You need to have it compared to something. So here's what happened. I started asking myself, well, what do I really need to make this short-term rental business work? Do I actually need to own the house? And that's when it hit me. Now, Fortunately, as an educated investor, you spend a significant amount of time learning from all kinds of people all across the globe. And there's a very famous individual by the name of Peter Fortunato who has a diagram of the benefits of a house. So it was at that time I began to reference that diagram, and I asked myself this question: of these benefits, which one or ones do I actually need? And well, as it turns out, the only one that I needed was control. I needed use. I needed to be able to use the space so that I could then offer the space to someone else. So I had the freedom and the flexibility to give up all of the other benefits if it made sense to me. Okay, just to make sure that you understand before we get into the numbers, all we're looking to do is use a piece of real estate. Just control it. That's all we're after. We don't need all of the other benefits at the beginning of our business. Now, do you eventually want to grow to the point to where all of those benefits become yours? Sure, but that's what we call phase 3 of the business. And right now we're in phase 1. So when we're in phase 1, the only thing we really care about is how can I get control to use the property for the specific purpose that I have in mind. So here's how the numbers roughly went. At the beginning, I'm looking at putting in $100,000. That $100,000 is going to give me control of the property and put it in a condition in which I am now ready to put in the furnishings, okay? And with that one property, I have one location. That's what it comes down to. The other side is, what happens if instead of focusing on owning it, because yes, if I'm owning it, I'm going to have the benefits of the equity and some depreciation and a whole bunch of other things, but I have to ask myself, what's this about? Well, it's about cash flow. So if I forgive all of those other benefits and only focus on use, the question became, how fast do I get my money back? This is also known as velocity or return on your capital or return on investment. And what it comes out to is, what if that same $100,000, everything else being equal, that $100,000 now gives you access to 6, maybe 7, maybe 8, 9, or even 10 different locations. And for this example, let's just use the number 10. Let's pretend it's 10 one-bedrooms. So now you have 10 bedrooms, 10 different locations that you're leasing. Now, keeping everything else the same, you've got your 4-bedroom house, and you've got 10 one-bedrooms. Let's pretend for each bedroom you get to take home approximately $800 per month. So on the 4-bedroom house, that's $3,200. For the 10 one-bedrooms, that's $8,000. I think you're beginning to see what I started to see. What I started to see was, man, if I do it this way, yes, I forego any sort of appreciation or depreciation and maybe some of those other benefits, but I have a shot at getting my money back faster. The velocity is there and the risk is lower, because one of the things that's happening right now is a lot of the jurisdictions, you don't know what the ordinances are going to be, and they're still being figured out. So a good way to hedge against that risk is to not put yourself in a quote-unquote permanent position by actually owning the piece of real estate yet, especially while you're still growing your business. Because see, here's the other thing that I know. I know that it takes a while sometimes to put aside whatever the down payment is. You're like, well, Jay, you know what? I don't need $100,000 in order to buy, just one house in my, neck of the woods. Okay, that's fine. But maybe you need 10, maybe you need 20, maybe you need 30. It still takes time. But when you do the math, what you end up finding out is by using other people's property, by foregoing those other benefits, by being willing to just use the property, you get your money back faster, which allows you to build what I like to call a down payment machine. That's phase 2 of the business and the way that we look at it. Phase 1 simply being you getting started, getting one unit, learning how things work. Phase 2, building your down payment machine. And then phase 3, now you go out there and you purchase the properties because you have this down payment machine that you know how to run and operate that can allow you to keep buying more and more real estate until, well, you decide when you're done. With all of that being said, I'm hoping that this helped you to understand that you don't have to own the pieces of property. And there are so many tools for this. There's leases, there's lease options, there's creative ways using what are known as contracts for deed. If you absolutely have to find a way that you want to purchase the property over time. But there are many forms of installment sales, as they're called, that'll allow you to be able to purchase the property over time or just get use via a lease or, like I said, a lease option. What we tend to use most of the time is we just use a normal lease in order to achieve our objectives. And then we like to negotiate a first right of refusal to be able to purchase the property when and if we're ready, and only after we've gotten the opportunity to test out a particular location. Now, I promised those of you who stayed to the end that I would give you access to a free presentation that would help you go through some of the more finer details of what it takes to get started. For example, how on earth do you approach a landlord and ask them to use their property? Where does the money come from for furnishings if you're starting in that particular situation? And more importantly than that, what if you have a situation in which your credit doesn't actually work out? How does this business still work for you? So here's what I want you to do. I want you to look for the link in the description so that you can go and take advantage of the free presentation while it is still there. Again, click the link in the description, make sure that you register, pick your time, and I look forward to seeing you